Hello everyone, welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about some mean Streets of Gadgetzan Hearthstone cards. These are going to be some of the cards which we think are either going to shake up the meta quite a bit, or we just need to show them to Blizzard and go, why the heck are you still making these cards? They absolutely suck. Now, we're probably going to be doing a few more of these videos as we find out the rest of the cards, but as of today, these are mine and Zach's favourite cards from the release of the expansion. Was it about a month ago now?
Yeah, I think so. And then it's the 27th of November today, so we've just had the Shaman Legendary yesterday, so that's where we're up to at the moment.
Right.
And although you say favourite, we'll come back to that because some of these are trash. So the first card is the big Time Racketeer.
I can't wait to get this off Moonglade Portals. I also think this card is... This is one of those great examples of... This is a card that can be seen as fair, but as we all know, fair cards don't win in Hearthstone. It has to be quite well, not overpowered, but it has to be such perfectly on curve. And because it's a battle cry, I don't think that this card is going to see as much play as we'd want. Obviously, it's great having another 6/6 body because that's going to protect against some potential board clears or what's that one secret which snipe. That will be fine against that because you'll still have the 6/6 body, which is still something to be contested over.
There's only one deck that's playing snipe at the moment, and they're replacing good cards with snipe, so luckily we don't have to worry about that.
I want this card to do well. I want it to be a thing because obviously you can also get some brand synergy in there. That's not really going to happen because
not for long though. But
yeah, because you've got to pull off the big 9-turn 3/2. No, sorry. 2/4, then a 1/1, then 2 6/6s, which is incredible, but it's a bit too late for the game, I think.
At the end of the day, this is 6 mana for 7/7. If you look at some of the 1 mana cards where they're sort of tripling their value, and this is barely going over 1 times its mana cost. I mean, come on, this isn't going to see any competitive play.
Unfortunately, no, because it's that case where you have a mana worm, which is a 1 mana 1/3. If you time those stats by 6, which is the mana cost, that's a 6/18.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of cards that we expect. It's a shame really because we have some decent later game cards, but when you just look at the early game cards, and there's still a few examples in this list as well, they're just going to get stomped on. Because
the only positive thing I can think about this one is for new players, this is a cool example of a battle cry effect and just showing how important it is. No matter the stat line of the base card, you have to look at the text in between, and this is a good lesson for those players. But outside of that arena, this is a really well balanced card. It would be nice to show up with the double occurrence rate, and of course it'll be picked quite a lot, but other than that it's nothing too special.
So the next card we have is the Warrior, Hunter and Paladin tri-class card, Don Hanjo. Now there was quite a lot of theory crafting on what this card was going to be, and I think that some of the Hearthstone community was a bit disappointed with it because it follows the standard is it the Grime Street Goons? His crime syndicate.
Yes.
Giving your minions in your hand 5/5. Or sorry, giving a random minion in your hand 5/5.
We saw this on the trailer and we sort of thought this would be a main card, and obviously we get the legendary out of it, we get the tri-class mechanic. But in terms of this give a minion in your hand extra stats, I'm not sure with the reduction in tempo that you're getting from playing this on turn 7 and obviously making it up probably on turn 8, turn 9, I'm not sure if that loss in tempo you'll be able to make that up in order to get into a winning position in those later turns.
See, I could see this potentially working in a heavy control or a control Paladin, such as an Azoth Paladin, or a control warrior setting, when having a beefier, I'd say maybe even the Sylvanas. But the only problem is that makes the job of removal, because a lot of classes have just such clean, efficient removal anyway, like Hunter's Mark or Polymorph.
Especially against Priest in Power Word Death, this is not a good card to have.
Yeah, sadly. Or even you could just clearly shadow step this. I know you could clearly sap this back, and you've just had such a significant tempo loss.
And putting this in a class, a tri-class such as that includes Hunter and Paladin, I don't think it works so well because they're quite minion heavy decks most of the time. In Warrior, you can be a bit more selective. You can keep certain minions back for the late game because you're not playing them as frequently. You've got much less minions up to turn 5 than you have in the other two classes, so it could work in that respect. And there's actually an interesting neutral card in Doppelgangster, which is summon 2 copies of this minion, and it's a 2/2 minion for 5 mana, and yeah, it could work on these sorts of cards, giving you sort of 15 worth of 21 worth of stats there, but that's quite specific synergy.
Our next card, I think, is trash. So we have Finger, the Flying Star. Stealth, so whenever it attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs from the deck. I don't think a 5 mana 2/4 Murloc belongs in the game at all.
Especially for that mana cost. I mean, you're getting 2 attack from it. I mean, what are you really going to kill on turn 6 with those stats?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because by then you might have a suitable amount of Taunt Sub or some decently high health minions.
The only deck I can see this in at the moment is anything Paladin.
Yeah.
And that isn't so good because you're putting a non-charge, non-buffing Murloc in the anything spell effect, which takes up a really important slot on the board when you play that card. But it does accelerate the pace at which you can play anything, because you're playing effectively 4 Murlocs normally in that deck with Bluegill and the War Leader, and so you can rather than drawing for them and then being at the bottom of the deck, at least you're accelerating the rate at which they come out. So this could be potentially in a more aggressive anything deck without the Unzoth, or the, obviously you put Tyrion in still, but the Unzoth, the Sylvanas, the Cairn, you have a bit of a different play to this.
I will be very surprised if I see this card work in anything else but anything Paladin card. Wait for this to become the new Doctor 5.
One of my favourite card designs, so in terms of the art.
Yeah, that's a positive. That's a positive.
Yeah, okay.
Wait. So, what do you want to bet that this is going to be the Golden Legendary I unpack on release day?
Oh yeah, you'll have both of them. You'll have 2 of them. Sorry.
So, we're going to be briefly talking about 3 tri-class cards, which all pretty much do the same thing. So it's going to be Grime Street Informant, Cabal Courier, and Lotus Agents. Essentially, these cards just allow you to discover a class card. So Hunter, Paladin, Warrior, or in the case of Cabal Courier, Mage, Priest, Warlock, and Lotus is going to have Druid, Rogue, and Shaman. Now, I can see that the Grime Street Informant is going to have the, say, Jeweled Scarab effect, because that's essentially what it is. Although it does lack the Beast tag, which doesn't really affect much. No. I'm really happy to see that one working. The Cabal Courier, yes, to a lesser degree, because it always reminds me, stat-wise, a bit of Dark Peddler. The Lotus Agent, see, the thing is that I think with Cabal Courier and Grime Street Informant, you at least have a somewhat okay body to go behind it.
Yeah, you're never playing a 5/3 without this effect, and this effect doesn't change it enough to put that on the board. Like you're putting it in Shaman, Druid, and Rogue, which Rogue is probably the only use for that. And they do have a tendency to play fairly weak bodies, so perhaps it could work in there. In terms of the mechanic overall, I think it only works in slow decks, or as I said before, decks that use other classes cards, so Rogue in particular, and Priest and Warrior. I think this would be the only way it would work. And even in Warrior, you're probably not going to put a 1/1, a 2-mana 1/1 in your deck, because there's so much better removal that you could be putting in there in place of this card in the low mana slots.
Yeah. Just another thing about Lotus Agents is that, especially Shaman, as is now, and Druid, they're such minion heavy and board centric decks that I doubt Lotus Agent is. The only thing I could see Lotus Agent be used for is maybe Rogue and trying to get some of that sweet Druid removal, or some of that sweet Shaman removal, or something along the lines of that.
Yeah, I mean you're always looking for a spell in Rogue, and with those 2 classes, you've got some decent removal spells there. So you're quite happy, I think.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with Cabal Courier, to be honest.
In all 3 decks, or just Priest?
I could see it, as in our new Overlords. I can see Cabal Courier. I think I'm pretty happy in seeing Cabal Courier in all 3 decks, because it's got that nice 2/2 stat line, which I think doesn't offend too many of the classes, because yeah, there are some 3-stat cards there, but for the sake of a Discover, you can sort of afford to lose a little bit of tempo.
I mean, even in Zoolock, I could, like at a stretch, I could see it, because it runs out of gas up to maybe turn 8, and it keeps on when it's up to the sort of tapping every turn. So even there, I can see it potentially putting it in, but then you're relying on drawing it at an optimal time rather than having it in your opening hand when you want to be playing those more tempo heavy cards.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also fine with having Grime Street Informer be played on turn 2, just for the sake of variety, because I think, although we are typically going up against 3 very different classes, I could see Grime Street Informant working in a more late game or early game scenario, and at least having the body there. So aside from Lotus Agents, I'm very happy with these cards. I think they're all going to see play to a decent degree, and of course Arena. Zach is the Arena player out of us, so I'm talking from a complete new perspective, but I think they're just going to be just fine for Arena's sake.
Most Discover cards in Arena are generally quite useful, but you want to have a stat line to back it up, so only the Cabal, I think, would be the obvious choice when you're drafting there.
Next up, we have Madden Go. Yeah,
so let's put a scenario down. So you're playing Dragon Warrior.
Yeah.
You're putting, let's say an Azure Drake down on turn 5. You put do we know if the swap effect is random, or do you get to choose?
I'm assuming it's random. Well, because if you had the choice, that will clog up the UI quite a bit.
So we have the Drake down. We play this. We replace the Drake. So assuming that then the Drake then goes back in your deck, which is good card draw, and then in Dragon Warrior, for example, you have a lot of late game cards in there. So the likelihood is you're going to pick something pretty heavy and significantly good for turn 6. So
I could see this working in maybe Nuzolf Paladin. Definitely, because your main advantage of running this card is that you're going to try and abuse the battle cry, and you're trying to reuse that effect over and over and over again.
It's generally going to be a late game card unless you're potentially putting some combo on it. Then you can specifically guide your deck towards that. Yeah,
and you can just potentially endlessly just try and re-heal your cards.
What about a combo charge deck with the pandas?
Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's, when Tharazin gets rotated out anyway, there's going to be no such thing as combo decks. It's going to be like back in Vanilla when matches went on for 15 minutes.
Good. Finally.
Finally, I can see fatigue again. I love the design of this card as well. Just that it's it's one of those cards where I think, why hasn't this been invented earlier? Yeah. It's not even a new effect.
It scales with player level as well, because you can be as good at mid-range hunter or mid-range shaman as you want, but you might not be a good deck builder, and so this really scales with how inventive and how good an all-round player you are, unless you net deck it, of course.
And next up we have Mistress of Mixtures.
This is a neutral, but it probably should be a priest.
Should we just edit like the white border?
I think so.
And it's priest as a 1-drop.
It's effectively replacing the Chow that we had a month ago. That priest, when it was viable, used.
When it was viable. Oh god, I miss Zombie Chow.
And it's even better than Chow because it heals you.
Yeah. What do you think the chances of this being a true neutral is?
Very low, because Warrior's fine in removal in the early game, so it generally survives. Potentially in your more top-heavy Paladins. Yeah, and with the Shaman cards that are coming out, potentially we're going to have a top-heavy Shaman as well. We can put that in there. And of course with the new, I'm not sure if we're calling them Reno or Highlander mechanics of some of the other
let's call them the Highlanders.
This fits quite well as early game in those. Priest has got a 1-2-3 now, so expect to see that at the top of the
right,
at the top of the list.
So I misspoke at the start of this video when I said we're going to be talking about some of our favourite cards.
Yeah, this is the worst one that we've got. So this is the Worgen Greaser. This is a 4-mana 6/3, and the reason that it's in here is it's not for this card specifically. It's just to discuss the reason for Blizzard putting in these filler cards that really will never see play in competitive. This particular card, and there's a 3/5 Wind Fury, will not be used as well. Will not be in your sort of 65-point plus arena decks that you're hoping to get. So really, what is the point in including these cards at all?
See, I always remember a video I watched. It was the Maz video about a year or so ago, and he mentioned that his base for strong cards was can it survive a 5 attack?
Mm-hmm.
Can it survive above 4 attack or maybe 5? Like you see, back in the day, Chillwind Yeti was a strong card because the only thing that could kill it was a fireball.
Yeah.
Really. And seeing this thing die to a 2-drop makes me sad.
Well, even some 1-drops in the rare cases, obviously that's very extreme. But just to see that even the 2 or 3 difference in mana from what removes it and what it is just ridiculous. But I want to get on to the point of them including these cards. Why do you think Blizzard feel the need to put these filler cards in?
I think because new players might potentially get confused, because rather than have like a lot of what we prefer is a lot of cool wacky kind of effects and like quite text heavy and quite specific, and the fact that it's a common as well.
But don't we have the basic set for that? Does that not fill that role? Like for example, even new players can realize that the Chillwind Yeti is better than this.
Yeah, I can't really explain it.
The one reason that I can think of is when you're opening the packs, then you're not going to have... You're going to fill your collection at a slow rate because there's more of these cards within that expansion. So therefore you have to buy more packs to get all the common cards. Moving on to the Druid class. So the first card we've got here is a common. It's Jade Blossom, summon a Jade Golem. And this is just put in here to... it's also again an empty mana crystal. This is just put in here to discuss the Jade Golem mechanic.
Right, so the big thing about this expansion is then that obviously between the 3 tribes, I know they're not tribes, but between the 3 gangs, there's a certain kind of mechanic. But for the Jade Golems, and this particular effect, every time you summon a Jade Golem, it starts off as a 1/1, but everyone you follow afterwards gains a +1 in stat. So this is a very slow rolling kind of deck where you are going to have to suffer significant tempo loss. But by the time, say, if you summon your 5th or 6th Jade Golem, that will be a 6/6, and the effects only keep going there. So it's a very, very heavy deck. The only reason I'm a bit skeptical is that it's obviously nice to get the increasing cost for the golems. It's nice to get the increasing stats for the golems, but the effect of the card has to justify it as well. Such as with Jade Blossom, I can possibly see that working because it's just it's a slightly beefed up wild growth.
Yeah, pretty much.
So at its very least,
you're probably at this point, if you're putting all those Jade Golems in there, you're probably getting a 2/2 3/3 from it.
And I don't know how many new players can justify gaining an empty mana crystal and having a 1/1 on the board. Anything above that, I think, is good.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing ramp cards being played even in non-ramp decks at the moment in Druid. And so I think this is probably the missing link to those decks and bringing ramp back. And especially when you've got sort of fairly decent other Jade Golem cards to go in there. I mean, ideally you'd put Bran in there as well. It's in Druid, mostly. After the Year of the Kraken finishes, the viability does change a little bit. But it depends if this mechanic stays in this expansion or we get it. It's continued in the next one.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss a few of the other Jade Idol?
Yeah.
Sorry, a few of the other Jade cards. I want to talk about Jade Idol because I want this to be in Control Druid so unbelievably badly that I like how this could potentially get to the ridiculous heights of never going into fatigue. But of course, do you believe that Druid has the potential to go that late to fatigue anyway? Aside from fatigue Druid,
I've never come across a deck where it has. But this is probably its best opportunity in ladder. I mean, obviously you could try it out in
casual, yeah.
But ladder, this is its best opportunity, I think, to go into that, and maybe we'll see a few more of the late game Druid legendaries come into it a bit more.
Yeah, I think that given this is just a problem with the state of the game in general, is that yes, you could go into the late game and you could have like summon 13, 14 minions, but on the same time you could play something like Spell Power Druid and win by turn 8. So I don't mind cards which I say I like to call them B decks, where I have 2 decks for each class. I've got my A ones where it's like Beast Hunter, there's off Paladin, the ones that I'm gonna play to, and the ones I'm gonna go to.
The tier ones,
yeah, the tier 1s, the tier 2s, all my favourites. but I've also got my B decks where it's like anything Paladin or Nazoth Rogue. If this could work, I'd be very surprised and I'd be very happy. I can see the Jade Idol play being one of the new turn ones, but on the same hand, though, Living Roots is still going to be a thing for a bit.
I have a little bit more faith than you do in ladder, but when it comes to arena, it really depends on the card itself, because you're very rarely going to get synergy with this. And so Wild Growth, yeah, okay, in arena, so probably the Jade Blossom is going to work fairly well. The Jade Idol, not enough tempo really, because even arena is tempo driven. And as another example, the Jade Swarmer, possibly, but because it hasn't got enough attack, then it's one of the lower tier arena cards, I'd say.
Next up, we have. Oh, I can't even read this card without having a little giggle to myself. We have Pilfered Powers, so you get a mana crystal for each friendly minion.
Who designed this? I mean, you can't have a deck that's aggressive and controlling.
Insert Ben Brode laugh. His troll laughter in the background.
This is trash.
I looked at this and when this got released, I actually sat on my computer for a good 5 or so minutes and just trying to think. Because say if you use Living Roots, that's two minions on the board. Your opponent might not be able to deal with that. Let's say you have another one that drops. Okay, you've got 3. This card in the best possible scenario would be gain 3 mana.
Yeah, but
why would you run this rather than running something better?
The thing is, you're using this in a deck that has a lot of low cost minions, and unless you've got a lot of draw, even the turn 5 draw that Druid has, you're sacrificing a whole turn in a deck that's reliant on tempo for this card to eventually use those late game, or to draw so much more early game that you can play all of it again. Really doesn't work, and it's a very, very small scenario and very few games where you'll pull off that perfect curve to get it to work.
So yeah, trashed here, but I can see why they printed it.
I don't see why they printed it whatsoever. Anyway, moving on to Hunter, and one of the more controversial cards of the expansion, Knuckles.
So yeah, this is a 5 mana 3/7, and when this minion attacks another minion, it also attacks the enemy hero. So this is the card which can go face without going face.
Yeah, Hunter is so good at going face anyway. I don't think it needs this.
For 3/7, that's such an odd stat as well for a 5-drop.
Yeah.
I looked at this first and I thought, oh, that stat line always reminds me of a slightly better Children Yeti.
It's sticky for sure, but on turn 5 and those beyond that, where it will be on the board, there's much better Hunter cards to use at the moment, because in reality, maybe in a Highlander Hunter you could have fun with this maybe, but not in your normal ladder decks.
Maybe in Don Hancho Hunter?
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Because the 3 attack really doesn't seem worth it, but mind you, when this card gets buffed up to maybe 5/9, then you can realise, okay, I've got quite a beefy thing. And it's also nice. Hunter's by far got the worst legendaries out of all the classes, I think.
The next Hunter card is the Rat Pack. This is a summon a number of 1/1 rats equal to this minion's attack, so it obviously works perfectly well with the Don Hancho mechanic. Not very well on its own.
This card is going to be the Hunter card. I think this is going to be the most overpowered card of the expansion.
Really?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes. This, on its own, this is a 3 mana 4/4 for stats.
I think you're crazy.
You really think so?
Unless you've got Houndmaster guaranteed on turn 4 after this, or if this is coined on turn 2, then Houndmaster. Yeah. Really don't see this.
I can see this because we've already talked about the stat mechanic, the Ground Street Goons are going to bring. So there's a very good chance you can already get this up. Yes, it's a 3 mana 2/2 as well, but that stickiness, maybe it's the PTSD I've got from Nax and just trying to remove even having the Haunted Creeper and having those 2 1/1s, that can still go a decent way, and this one still gives you 2.
The trouble I have with that comparison is the Creeper had 1 less attack and cost 1 less and wasn't a beast. I really don't think that the change in this makes it as good or nearly as good as that card.
I can justify that, but I can also justify some of the more short-term effects as well, such as you could put Defender of Argus on this, you could put... Because it has been confirmed that once it's dead, like the stat that it dies with is the one that carries over to the death rattle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you abuse of this, you're going to get 4 rats for that amount of money. So for that amount of cost.
But the thing is, you're talking with Abusive and the Argus. You're talking about cards that aren't being played at the moment. And I think you have to force a deck to play this card. I think. In terms of Arena, I think it's a bit of a shame that this is an epic card, because unless you're gonna get trash tier epics, you're probably not gonna pick this out of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a rare or a common, it would, especially a common, I think it would really help Hunter in Arena, which is obviously one of the lower tier Arena classes. And it would definitely get played as a common slot, I think.
So next up, we've got Inkmaster Solia. So this is another Highlander card.
Mm-hmm.
So the next spell that you cost, it costs nothing. Now
Your deck has to have no copies.
No copies at all.
Yeah.
So I imagine this is going to have the Reno effect, where she glows orange once there's no duplicate cards in your deck. I really, really am struggling to think of a use for her.
It's difficult especially in a Highlander deck, because the amount of useful spells that you're almost certainly going to play decreases by half, because you're putting a lot of filler in there just to get up to that 30 card count. And really, for the stats of 7 mana 5/5 free spell, unless you're getting like a Flame Strike or like a really heavy tempo driven spell for free, I struggle to see it.
Yeah, unless you're quite behind and you maybe want to use her and Blizzard and then follow up with a Flame Strike just to guarantee that complete removal.
Because this is going to stay in your hand for a long time unless you have that spell already in your hand that you want to use it with. So it's clunky, but when it works, it really is a huge tempo swing if you get it right.
Yeah, I'd like to think this is quite similar to Halazil the Ascended, in that if you get it right, the benefit is unbelievably worth it. But I think I'd rather have Antonidas.
Yeah, on that 7 mana slot. But then again, in a Highlander deck, you can still put it in.
You could, yeah. It's just that I would like to see this card work, although
I can't wait to try it. Let's put it that way.
yeah. There's when we talk about some cards where we say I hope it wants to work, there's a number of cards that we're going to try and like others are going to try, which we will probably try more than others for things to work. Like I'm going to try and make a Knuckles Beast deck somewhere.
Yeah, and play it on ladder, and then go to rank 20.
Rank 23 is still a rank. So, like it's that same vein where I think the Reno, like it is a similar vein to Reno, but this almost seems like a challenge in you make this deck work. And a lot of times, like a card like Halazil doesn't necessarily make it. But I'm excited to see the effect. I'm excited to see how this fits.
Definitely.
How this fits into the game.
And much like many of the other cards, you fit your deck around it, so you make sure you have those high mana cost spells that you can really get the most out of it. Next up, we're looking at the new, clearly going to be in the meta, the Mage Secret deck. And
this is, I hate cards like this. I cannot stand.
This is one of the worst mechanics in the game. To make whatever it is, an 8/8 of what is it, 5/5 for free. This is the reason why Hearthstone is one of the reasons why it's such a tempo driven meta at the moment, and one of the reasons why we can't have fun decks.
See, when Blizzard released that massive nerf wave, like the most recent nerf wave of cards, was it the one? Was it
the one with Abusive and Juggler? Yeah.
When they nerfed Molten Giant, I thought that's not really needed because Handlock wasn't exactly a top tier deck at the time. And when they nerfed it to, was it 25 mana? Yeah, but I thought that is overkill. And I thought, okay, I can see their reasoning behind it because you don't want, you just don't want to give people cards for free. And in the very next expansion, they make Arcane Giant and the Thing from Below. This card's the exact. Don't get me wrong, Mage is my favorite class by far.
This card,
this card sucks.
It sucks. What?
No, it doesn't. No, it's the design. Yeah. The design of this card sucks because this is a 0 mana 5/5.
Effectively, this card alone makes sure that Mage carries on in sort of a mid-range to late game form.
Mm-hmm. And especially with some of the other mage cards we're going to be seeing slightly later, Mage Secrets are only going to be getting easier and easier to play, because it's not even that Mage Secrets are bad. They're probably I'd say they're the second best in the game.
Especially with this card here, because they're the most expensive secrets. And then to put this card, there's such a cheap card with it, it's just absolutely crazy.
Because I mean, a 1-mana 2/1 is fine on its own, but to get something like an ice block in there already.
This is effectively, what is it, a -2 mana 2/1. Yeah,
a minus. This card, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
On the same hand, you can say that this card's not going to be good because you're not going to get your secrets. You just put more secrets in your deck then.
That's what I thought about Babbling Brook. I thought the stat line was too bad for it to be played, but I was wrong, and this card is going to go along the same way it's going to be played. And it's going to be played a lot in Mage, and in most Mage decks I would assume, because apart from, I mean, even obviously Tempo Mage is going to be destroyed as of next year, but even that plays a couple of secrets.
Even if it's something like the Mirror Entity.
Yeah.
But it's okay, Blizzard. You wanted Secret Mage. You already hate Freeze Mage enough as it is, like the rest of us do.
And I also hate this card in Arena as well, because Mage is already a top tier. Yes, it got slightly nerfed by some cards being removed from Arena, but secrets are still in there, and they're still the best secrets in the game because of their mana cost. And this, if it's included in Arena, gives Mage a significant boost. Realistically, on ladder, will there be a deck where you have like 8 Mage secrets in it?
No,
not from this.
I think it's going to be similar to Totem Shaman, where you have the best ofs, or maybe even Elephant Paladin, where you just have enough to make it work and enough to make it viable, because you need 3 secrets to get the other card we talked about down to 0 mana. So Mirror Entity is already fine enough as it is.
Yeah.
Ice Block, that's already fine.
Ice Barrier's in there as well.
Ice Barrier as well.
And this card.
And this, oh god damn it, Blizzard.
This is Potion of Polymorph. After your opponent plays a minion, transform it into a 1/1 sheep. So effectively, a Mirror Entity mechanic, because once your opponent plays a card, but instead of you copying it, it transforms that minion.
God damn it, Blizzard. I mean, I love Polymorph. I love the effect of it, but this is a cheaper Polymorph.
I can see why though, because you can't target it.
Yeah.
So it's always clearly not as good as Polymorph. But and in the meta at the moment, it's not actually that good, because you're going against mostly aggressive decks. Whereas if that were to change and we see mostly sort of top heavy decks, then yes, the power of this card increases dramatically. Although I said that because the meta is tempo driven at the moment, that this won't be as good, it still will be, because you're ruining a turn of tempo.
Yeah.
Most likely. Because of it. And again, same with the Finger. Great card artwork.
You said same with Finja. I was like, wait, Finja sucked.